Guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching and being here and supporting. I really appreciate it. But you did not come here for my gratitude. You came here to learn how to get big ass arms. So let's get into it. We're going to cover 3 topics today. Ultimately, by the end of the video, you will learn how to grow your arms. Those are going to be compound versus isolated movements, volume training, and finally, setting up your plan. To make it really simple for you, a compound movement is an exercise that covers 2 or more body parts. For example, a bench press or a deadlift. An isolated movement, on the other hand, is where you're actually training one body part, like a tricep extension or a bicep curl. So on the one hand, we have heavy lifting, where you could be doing heavy bench presses, heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, and you don't need exact precise form to go through the movement. Whereas with an isolated movement, you would need precise form to feel the muscle burn better than with a heavy one. So you could argue the one could be used for a heavier lift, whereas the isolated movement would need to be a lot lighter. The way I set up my own program is I do my compound movements first. Then, after that, once I've got fatigue going through the body, I do my isolated movements last. So let's make that even simpler. Just by bench pressing alone, yes, it's a chest exercise, but our triceps do a lot of work keeping that weight stable. So from the bench press, our triceps will fatigue. Then when I do triceps later, I get to work on them even more. Which brings me on to our second topic for the day, volume. So what exactly is volume? Commonly referred to as hypertrophy. Volume training is where we're doing reps over the amount of about, let's say, 10 to 12, and we're doing them with short periods of rest, about 45 seconds to a minute. So I'll take an exercise as an example. We'll do a bicep curl, maybe with an easy bar. I'm aiming for about 10 to 12 reps, and I've got to pick the weight correctly to make sure my arms fatigue in that time. Then once I'm done with the set, I'll only give around 45 seconds to a minute's rest before I take the next set on. This means I'm getting more and more volume into those muscles. Now I know there's no such thing as a magic rep range, but personally, I don't normally go above 15 reps. This to me takes way too long and the weight is too light. If I'm going too low on the reps, I think the weight would be too heavy and it could compromise form, especially in an isolated movement. I feel like rest is something that people don't touch on enough. It is actually quite important to keep your rest low, especially when you're volume training. If you're doing more heavier lifts, then 2 to 3 minutes is fine. Just remember, you're there for a good time, not a long time. Another reason why volume is incredibly important when we're trying to grow our arms is people tend to forget that the arms are used in everyday work. So say for example you have to pick something up, lift something up off the ground, pick up your dog, whatever the case may be. Let's say even if it weighs 10 to 15 to 20, maybe even 30 kilograms, the arms are going to be working. So at the end of the day, the arms are actually used to working quite a lot. They're used to carrying volume. And if you really want to grow a muscle, volume training is the #1 way how to do that. And basically at the end of the day with volume training, all we're really doing is pumping as much blood and as much volume into that muscle as possible so that we can get the micro tears on the muscle, and when we eat enough protein and we have a good enough diet, it will repair and come back stronger and bigger for the next set that you go into.
Walk out the door, you see someone that you know and they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
And it will come back stronger and bigger for the next day that you come into the gym. On to our final point, setting up a plan or a program for yourself. Alright, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here, but when setting up a plan or a program, I touched on a little bit earlier when I said I normally start with a big muscle group first. So let's use chest as an example. And then to follow, I'd follow with a complementing body part, like triceps. Because whenever we're pushing something away from our body, our chest is going to work as well as our shoulders, and our triceps are going to support that movement. If we're pulling something towards our body, then our back is going to work as well as our biceps. It then makes sense to follow a big muscle group with a small one. So once again, bench press, then followed by a tricep extension. So normally you would just train chest on day 1 and you'd come in on day 2 and then train arms. Well, now we can be more efficient by going in on day 1, training chest for 5 sets and doing 3 sets of triceps afterwards. Therefore our triceps technically get 8 sets of volume. Complementing body parts. Complementing body parts are actually quite simple. You just got to think about how the body works a little bit. So if you're doing a pull day, then you're doing back and biceps. If you're doing a push day, then you're doing chest, shoulders and triceps. This is why I find the push-pull legs breakdown so efficient, because I know I can go in on day 1, I can do a push routine which covers my chest, shoulders and triceps. I can go in on day 2 which covers my back, biceps and rear delts. And then on the third and final day, I can hit a great leg session all on its own. This is a very effective way of adding more volume to your training program without having to go in just for a single arms day. In summary, and this actually goes for the whole body, the way to get the most out of the muscle is to actually work it even more, but in a smart and efficient way, like I've just explained. The amazing part about the push-pull program is that if you don't have the time to go in 6 days a week, because not even I do, then you have 3 days in the week where you have everything covered from top to bottom. And if the arms are still lagging or whatever may be lagging, let's say it's legs for example, you have the option of going in a 4th day and working on that as well. Thank you so much for watching the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. My goal by the end of the year is to get to 500 subscribers, so I really hope you can help me get me there. And if you like this kind of content, leave a comment below. Let me know what you'd like to see more of. If not, leave a thumbs down and I'll think of something else. Thanks for your time.